One of the benefits, I guess, of this car sitting for so long is I had a chance to really think about how dangerous it is. Now, that doesn't stop me from driving it, obviously. And since I started this car, we've started an autocross event, so I have a place to drive it now. But there's a few things that I want to go ahead and change before I get it ready to run. Now, it only lacks a couple of things. To drive, all I got to do is wire it. I do have wiring in here, but it's a fire hazard. There's just stuff kind of, you know, I don't know, what is this called? A wire nutted together and stuff, and just not good. There's a hole in the floor right there that I've got to build a little door for. It's just an access hatch for the master cylinder or slave cylinder. There's some rust spots I got to clean up down there and fix, but for it to drive, it's just got to be wired. So that's cool. I wanted to get rid of these. As much as I love these door bars, and it feels really cool, it sucks to get inside of, but it feels really cool to sit in here with them. I think they're just too dangerous. Like, they're not going to save me. They're just going to make things worse. And that's because I don't have an overhead bar. I just went with like a half cage in here. And these are supposed to tie into the bar that goes overhead. So it comes over your head and then down, and then this would tie into that. Now, hindsight, had I had a racing event to take this to when I was building this, I would have done overhead bars, but I didn't have anywhere to race this. It was just going to be for the street, and it was making me nervous. Like, if I got in a wreck, I didn't want my head to smash against a very hard bar. Y'all can argue about that in the comments. But anyway, this bar is supposed to tie into that, and it doesn't. And so I'm worried that if it does get hit and all 4 of the welding spots fail, it'll fold in on me and crush my legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this first. The first thing we're going to do in this video is just remove this thing. We're going to lop it off right here, and then I'll find a way to either leave a stub here or disconnect it or something, I don't know. And then we'll cut these off at the floor, pull that out, we'll pull that one out, and then we can do some like real wiring in this thing and kind of do the final go. I bought some gauges and some sensors and stuff. The only sensor I really need to drive it is the coolant temp sensor. I also have an oil temperature or oil pressure gauge that I'll probably throw in there as well. Even though I've heard this thing idle, I don't think oil pressure is really an issue, especially for just low speed driving, but we'll probably go ahead and put that in just to be able to monitor it. All right, I think you guys are caught up. I'm gonna put these earplugs in. They're like blue silicone, so I'm gonna have these little things sticking out of my head. But I found that I hate cutting with cutoff wheels unless I have my ears blocked. Then it's fine, everything's fine. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna cut this stuff out, and then we will do some wiring. I love this car. I'm so excited to be working on it again. The way power gets to this car is very simple. It runs through a 60 amp breaker that came with the aux beam switch into a fuse panel that also came with the aux beam switch, and that runs out to the aux beam control panel that runs everything on the car. Everything's very simple and easy because I want it to be easy to diagnose when there's problems. So as far as getting the wiring finished, it just means taking each wire, tracing it back to where it goes, whether that is the ignition or the fuel pump or the fans or the alternator or whatever it may be, the starter, and getting all of that tidied up. So what I'm gonna do next, I found this shifter. I got this for the 911, and then the 911's really like sun exposed, and I felt like an aluminum shifter was probably not the smartest. Now it doesn't fit on here, but I need a shift knob. So I'm gonna try just like using some painter's tape. It's just temporary probably. And we're gonna build this up. Oh, it's gonna be a lot. This is gonna be it. Gosh, it looks horrible. All right, there we go. I mean, it's threading. It's threading on. Let's see. It feels pretty good. Still going. Looks, you know, not great, but feels pretty good. All right, throw that guy in. I need to get another nut for that, but I love the way this transmission sounds. Okay, another thing I'm gonna need to do is figure something out about the steering wheel on this thing, but don't get distracted, Caleb. Just stay on task. Chances are, if you're watching this channel, you have dreamt about owning your dream garage, about the cars you could keep in there, about the tools you would have, about the things that you could complete in this sanctuary, this oasis. What you did not dream about is the absolute mess that could quickly be made of your shop if you don't have adequate storage. And I didn't think about that either. And I built this shop to do awesome things in and immediately realized I have a lot of junk and I have to find places to put it. And that brings us to today's sponsor. The FlexiMount GL1 is a shelf that I saw a long time ago, and they contacted me wanting to sponsor this video, and I thought, well, this is a great time to use this shelf. Now, I have loads of shelving in here already, and I have plans to put more, but none of them quite like this. This one moves. With the FlexiMount GL1, you can take 300 pounds of your very important junk and raise it up into the air, getting it off the ground and out of your way. The GL1 has heavy-duty cables. It comes with a hand crank to make it easy to raise up or down, but an impact and an 8mm socket makes short work of raising and lowering this shelf, no matter how much weight's on it. And the necessary safety features for something like this, like a safety lock and redundancy in the cable system, so if something does go wrong, you have a backup to keep you safe. All these boxes have been on the ground since I moved in here, and just having a place to put them is just awesome. Getting the big stuff out of the way makes me look at the small things and go, oh, there's not that much to do. But when there's just loads of boxes and trash and garbage and gear and parts everywhere in the shop, you walk in and you just want to walk back out. So if you are in need of storage solutions for your shop to get your gear out of the way, go check out FlexiMounts. I've left a link in the description below, and a portion of your purchase there will actually come back to Built. So not only are they making this video happen, but they're going to continue to support Built through your purchases on their website. Let's get back to the video. Sounded like the starter Bendix was stuck based on the click. I think that our starter is dead. If I attach the ground here and I go like this, it almost stalls the CRV out. So, and it's not obviously doing anything. So I guess I got to get another one of these. Yeah. All right. I've never really liked this starter design where you have your solenoid outside of the starter. I guess it's good for packaging, but anyway, I was tightening it and it looks like this thing just gets like spot welded in place or something, tacked in place, and it snapped. All right, so I gave the starter solenoid a better ground. I think the solenoid itself wasn't grounded well. If this isn't it, I'm just going to have to hang it up today because I've got to go, and I'll have to just pick it up tomorrow, which is a bummer. But let's see. Let's see if we've... All right. I put a new battery in, fresh battery, the best one that I could get, and it has plenty of power now. I've replaced it all again. This time I got a battery with a really long warranty, like 7 years, so I shouldn't have to buy another one. That's the goal. All right. Did it make a difference? I have the terminals loosely connected. I didn't like cinch them down, so if this doesn't work, then we'll do that. But I have them loosely connected because I still have wiring to do. So hopefully this will just work and we can move on with the project. Here we go. Neutral check. Power is on. Double check. Yeah, that's good. And hey-o! That sounds good. Nice, dude. Fired right up. Now it does not sound like it's got any oil pressure, so let's make sure. How about we make sure there's oil in it? I don't have a dipstick to do that with. So a couple of things that need to be done now is the engine needs to move forward about 1/4 of an inch. Ended up cutting these, moving them back a 1/2 inch, and then tacking them back in. Just test fitted it, and the engine fits, which was a huge problem, so I'm really glad that's over with. The engine was fouling on the steering rack. No more is that a problem, so we're gonna weld these up, throw them back in the car, and then we gotta figure out how to make the transmission fit. Every time you change one thing, you gotta change 4, but we'll get this done and then move on. Moving the engine and transmission have been one of the most stressful things that I've had to deal with on this car, and figuring this out is just a huge weight off my shoulders, and it has to be done before we can drive the car. It did take a lot of kind of moving and wiggling and lifting and everything else to get the engine to shift forward, but we finally got it to clear just enough so that the steering rack does not hit the harmonic balancer. All right, so I've got my lovely wife here. And I've got kind of a coolant system set up because of all of the traversing of the car. I wanted a surge tank. So I have a swirl pot here and then an overflow pot. I don't have the overflow tank filled yet. It's all just zip tied together because I don't know if it's gonna work, but I don't really know how this works, but I'm just kind of following the internet and hoping that we don't have any issues. So I'm gonna fill this. I've got 2 gallons of water. I don't know if it's gonna be enough. We're gonna fill it, we're just gonna see if anything leaks first, then we'll figure out how the cooling system actually works. Well, once again, we have a water leak. Let's see if I can get you guys. There it is. You can see it kind of hitting right there. You can see that gap right there? The gap in the thermostat? That's not what's leaking, but what that means is the thermostat is not seated properly. So the thermostat is overlapping down here and just dumping out water. So we gotta pull this guy out. There we go. This is the kind of stuff that gets defeating on custom stuff, custom builds. But you can see, maybe, we still see that drip happening. All right, so I decided to RTV the coolant neck thing on because it was still leaking out of the bottom after all of that. The alternator that I got for this car is the one that was made for this engine. In the 80s, Ford used an alternator. It was like their Gen 2 or something, and evidently it's just not very good. I didn't know that when I built this car, and now I do. So I decided to buy a GM alternator, swap over the pulley so that I could run the same belt that I ran on the Ford alternator. And the good thing about this is it's self-exciting, which means that you just run one power cable from the alternator straight to the battery. It handles everything else. There's no controller, there's no voltage amp. It's all built into the alternator. And so once that wire is run, you have a charging system. And with that, this engine can sustain itself as long as there's fuel in the tank. So now that the car runs, which is awesome, we have to basically make it not run again. The engine has to come out because I need to make a few adjustments. MGBs from the factory have a bump steer issue. I don't know this personally, but I've just read about it online, and I've lowered mine about 3 inches. Now, bump steer happens when the tie rods, well, there's a lot of reasons I think that cause it, but the main thing that causes it and makes it really bad is when the tie rods are at a bad angle when the car is resting. So when the car is flat right now, the MGB tie rods point up at a pretty hard angle, maybe like 30 degrees. And so what it's gonna do is induce bump steer. Bump steer is when the wheel hits a bump in the road and that steers the car. You may have felt this before in a car that had maybe a lift on it or was lowered a lot, and when you hit a bump, it kind of like throws the car one direction or another. So the way to fix this is to try to get the tie rods as flat as possible. Now there's a lot of elaborate ways to do this, but I chose to make my own bump steer adjustment kit. To make this work, I just cut off the end of my tie rods and then welded this into its place. I picked these Heim joints up off of eBay, and Heim joints are good when you're working on race car stuff because there's not that much pliability in them, and so you get a lot more accurate input. Now they're noisier and they're more vibrating, and so there's a trade-off there, but for this car, it's just gonna be a track car basically all the time, and so these are great for that. And you'll notice that there is some adjustment there, so you can move them up or down, and that allows you to basically level out your tie rod ends so that the bump steer effectively goes away. Another thing that I'm gonna do to give me more adjustment is flip the tie rod end mounts. On these hubs, there's like a separate mounting piece that mounts the tie rod, and so I'm gonna flip those left to right so that now the tie rod will bolt in from the bottom instead of bolting in from the top, and that's gonna give me the adjustment I think in order to get everything flattened out and level. Next up was making room for my oil filter relocation bracket. The frame rail is just in the way, and I got on the forums and found out this is a really common problem with these cars when you do the V8 swap from Ford. Now, a lot of guys will run different filter relocation brackets, and that works. This is actually my 3rd relocation bracket that I use. It's the most slender, and I thought it was gonna clear, but it just doesn't. So basically what I'm gonna do is just cut and shut. We're gonna cut out a kind of C section of the frame, hit it with a really, really big hammer, and then weld it back shut, and that should make plenty of room for the filter relocation bracket. Again, this thing's like, it doesn't touch when the car is sitting still, but when it's running, it's just from the shaking of the engine and all that power, it's hitting the frame rail, and so we've got to keep that from happening. And it was causing everything to loosen up and oil to leak from that area, which is how I found it in the first place. All right, so the engine is back in. It really was not hard at all to get back in. I just had to kind of figure out how to get the trans and the engine to line up, and it popped right back in, which is great news because it was an hour to get it out and maybe an hour and a half to get it back in, and I'll get faster. This is like the last, that was like the final big jobs to do before I could race this thing. Now, I do have a couple of jobs that are left that you guys will see in the very next video, but all of the kind of scary, annoying ones that I've been putting off forever, like cutting the frame and shifting the engine forward and fixing the bump steer and cutting the door bars out and wiring the car. It's all done. I mean, it's good. We're good. The fans work. Everything works. It's awesome. It doesn't leak coolant anymore. I mean, just so many good things just from this video. And it's almost ready to race. I'm not going to race it this month. We do have an event in June. For you guys that don't know, in the past few years, me and some buddies started an autocross event. Once a month, we meet as Grip Autocross. You can check us out on Facebook if you want to get more information on that. I think I'm going to take this and test it the day before and just drive it on our track. We have asphalt. We have like track grade asphalt. Same stuff they use at Talladega, by the way. And I just want to go get it and break it in before actually going and racing it because I know something is going to break. And I don't want to be mid-race for it to break. So we'll go out and we'll do some testing. I'll video it and try to get this thing where it'll go around the track. And then I can start racing it, which is the whole goal for this car. So what's next? Well, we only really have 2 more jobs. In the next video, we're going to build an exhaust. I've never built a stainless exhaust before. I got a TIG welder, I got tungsten, I got a grinder, I got some argon, I got everything I need, I think, to TIG weld. I've never TIG welded either, so I'm going to learn how to TIG weld. I'm going to TIG weld an exhaust. What could go wrong? In the next video, I designed it. I've been doing a ton of research on sound and how to make this thing sound cool. And I think I've got a design that's going to sound sick. And I think it's also going to shoot flames. And both of those are very good. Once the exhaust is done, I've got to build a firewall in the back to separate me from the hot coolant that is being stored in the radiator, because if I do have an overheating issue or a hose pops off, I'm going to get sprayed with 200 and who knows how many degrees of hot coolant. So I'm going to build a firewall out of plexi and some metal behind the seat, and then we'll just mount the seat, and I think we'll be good to go. Now, my goal for this car for now is to race it in the July Grip event. That is my plan. I thought it was going to be June, but I think that it's going to probably fall apart the first time I race it. So we'll let it fall apart in June when I'm testing, and then in July I'll bring it back and we'll race it. And so there's loads of laser cut parts that I need to get made to just get everything kind of tidied up inside and with gauges and all that. And there's just lots of testing that needs to be done to make sure that I'll be able to get around a track quickly without something falling off, because I've made everything, so something's gonna fall off. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but my shop is like way cleaner than it was at the start of the video, and that is thanks to FlexiMount. So big thank you to them for sponsoring this video. The only way I was able to put this video out today is because they sponsored it. So thank you so much, FlexiMounts. Go check them out in the link below and gets your garage organized. It's great. It feels really good in here. It's so motivating to work. All right, I think that's it for today. Next week, next Sunday, I'll be posting the exhaust vids. We're gonna see how cool we can make this car sound, and we're gonna see if I can TIG weld. It's probably gonna be ugly, and you'll have plenty of content to make fun of, and that is what this is all about. I'll see you guys in the next one.